Desperation is the fastest path to surrender. The moment an opponent senses that you need the deal, you become their captive. True leverage never belongs to the loudest voice or the highest title in the room. It belongs to the person who is genuinely prepared to walk away. Strategic indifference is the ultimate discipline of psychological detachment. In this masterclass, discover how to construct walkaway thresholds, project option abundance, weaponize the strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. The fundamental flaw in most strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. The fundamental flaw in most strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. The fundamental flaw in most strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. The fundamental flaw in most strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. The fundamental flaw in most strategic delay, and dominate every negotiation by proving you cannot be bought, pressured, or threatened. When a negotiator fears leaving empty-handed, they continually dilute their position to accommodate hostile demands. The walkaway threshold is an unshakable, predetermined boundary set long before entering the room. It represents the exact line where a deal ceases to offer value and becomes a liability. By establishing this threshold in advance, you remove emotional hesitation from the equation. When an opponent crosses this boundary, you do not argue, plead, or display frustration. You calmly halt the proceeding or initiate departure. That's B. Seeing that their artificial pressure tactics have zero effect on your boundary, the opponent realizes their bluff has failed and is forced to recalibrate to your standards. Leverage is dictated by perceived scarcity. If an opponent believes they are your sole path forward, they will systematically squeeze your margins and increase their demands. The option multiplier is the art of subtly signaling that your resources, time, and attention have multiple viable destinations. You do not need to boast or make explicit threats about competing offers. Rather, you communicate through casual, non-reactive body language that this specific deal is merely one of many options. When an opponent recognizes that you possess alternative avenues of equal or greater value, their ability to create artificial urgency evaporates. Your presence at the table transforms from an act of need into a rare privilege extended to them, shifting the burden of persuasion entirely onto their shoulders. Opponents often deploy sudden outbursts, extreme demands, or abrupt ultimatums to test your internal stability and provoke a defensive reaction. The emotional zero baseline is the practice of meeting high-voltage psychological attacks with an impenetrable cold neutrality. When met with severe demands, your heart rate remains steady, your tone stays flat, and your facial muscles remain relaxed. This lack of emotional feedback creates a psychological vacuum that consumes the opponent's momentum. Deprived of the defensive panic or angry confrontation they anticipated, they realize their tactical shock and awe campaign has fallen flat, leaving them exposed and uncertain of their next move. High-pressure tactics rely almost entirely on artificial time constraints designed to force hasty, ill-considered concessions. When presented with a high-stakes, time-sensitive demand, you refuse to match their frantic pace. You take extended pauses before replying, request deliberate cooling-off periods, or delay key communications by hours or days. This deliberate slowness signals that your decision-making process is governed by internal discipline, not external panic. As the artificial deadline passes without your capitulation, the opponent's anxiety spikes, realizing that their clock-driven pressure has failed. They are often forced to extend deadlines, soften terms, or yield concessions just to keep you engaged. Weak negotiators spend the majority of an interaction explaining why their proposal is valuable and begging for a chance to collaborate. The value inversion completely flips this burden of proof by quiet, selective questioning. Instead of pitching your worth, you structure the dynamic so that the opponent must continually justify why you should dedicate your time, capital, or alignment to their venture. Through calm, evaluative questions like, what specific mechanics ensure this outcome justifies our focus, you force them into the role of the eager applicant. By positioning your alignment as the scarce resource in the room, you compel them to make voluntary concessions and extra commitments simply to demonstrate that they meet your rigorous standards. The supreme expression of strategic leverage is not a performance or a tactical trick. It is genuine, deeply rooted outcome independence. The Unbound strategist operates from a psychological space where no single deal, relationship, or victory is allowed to define their trajectory. When you achieve true internal detachment, you become completely unmanipulable. Threats of cancellation lose their bite because you are comfortable walking away. Aggressive posturing fails because you hold no needy desire for their approval. Flattery loses its power because your self-worth is insulated from external praise. Opponents sense this unbothered stance instantly. It projects a formidable, quiet authority that cannot be shaken by traditional playbooks or psychological games. In any high-stakes environment, the room naturally gravitates toward the individual who requires nothing from anyone present. By mastering the art of strategic indifference, you transform every negotiation from a battle for survival into an effortless exercise in boundary enforcement. You dictate the terms, shape the landscape, and secure maximum value simply by being the one entity that can never be tethered, coerced, or contained.